France was broken, divided, and losing terribly. Armies were failing, and leaders were doubting themselves. And hope? It was fading fast. Then a teenage girl from a small village stepped forward and said she could save it. This is how the peasant Joan of Arc changed France forever. Joan of Arc was born in 1412 in a small village called Domremy. It was a quiet place surrounded by farmland and forests. Her family were peasants. Her father worked the land, and her mother taught her basic skills like sewing and caring for the home. Joan did not go to school. She could not read or write, but she grew up deeply religious, listening carefully to stories about God and the saints. At the time Joan was growing up, France was in serious trouble. The country was divided by internal conflict. Two powerful groups, the Armagnacs and the Burgundians, were fighting for control. On top of that, England was invading and claiming parts of France. The King of France, Charles VI, was often unable to rule due to illness. This made everything worse. In 1415, the English defeated the French badly at the Battle of Agincourt. Then in 1420, a treaty was signed that gave the English king the right to rule France. This pushed aside the French prince, known as the Dauphin, Charles. He fled and set up his own court far from the capital. France was no longer united. It was falling apart. This was the world Joan grew up in. When she was about 13 years old, something happened that changed her life. One day while working outside, she saw a bright light near the church. In that light, she believed she saw an angel. She later said it was the Archangel Michael, along with other saints. They told her that she had a mission. She was to help drive the English out of France and make sure the Dauphin became king. At first, she kept this to herself. But over time, the voices became stronger. They repeated the same message again and again. Joan began to believe that this was her purpose. In 1428, the situation became even worse. The English laid siege to the city of Orléans. This city was very important. If it fell, the English would gain control of central France. Many believed that once Orléans was lost, France itself would fall. Joan decided she could not wait any longer. She traveled to a nearby town called Vaucouleurs and asked to be taken to the Dauphin. The captain there, Robert de Baudricourt, did not take her seriously. She was just a peasant girl with a strange story. He sent her away. But Joan did not give up. She returned again, more determined than before. This time, she made a bold claim. She said that the French army would soon suffer a defeat. Not long after, news arrived that the French had indeed been defeated in battle. This shocked people. Suddenly, Joan did not seem so easy to dismiss. The captain finally agreed to help her. She was given a horse, armor, and a small group of men to escort her. For safety, she dressed like a soldier. The journey to meet the Dauphin was long and dangerous. They had to cross enemy territory, traveling hundreds of miles. When Joan arrived at the Dauphin's court, he was curious but cautious. To test her, he hid among his courtiers. Joan had never seen him before, yet she walked straight to him and identified him correctly. This surprised everyone. She was given a private meeting with him. We don't know exactly what she said, but it had a strong effect. The Dauphin began to believe in her. Still, his advisors were unsure. They wanted to make sure she was not a witch or a fraud. Joan was sent to be examined by church officials. They questioned her carefully about her beliefs and her claims. She remained calm and confident. In the end, they declared that she was a sincere and faithful Christian. Now she was given a chance. Joan was sent to Orléans with a French army. Many soldiers were unsure at first. They were not used to taking orders from a teenage girl, but something about her presence changed the mood. She spoke with confidence, and she believed completely in her mission. Slowly, the soldiers began to trust her. When the fighting began, Joan was right there with them. She carried a white banner instead of a weapon, but she stayed close to the action. She encouraged the soldiers and pushed them forward. During one attack, she was hit by an arrow in the shoulder. It was a serious wound. Many thought she would not return, but the next day she was back on the battlefield. This shocked both her own army and the enemy. After several days of fighting, the siege of Orleans was broken. The English were forced to retreat. This victory changed everything. For the first time in years, the French had hope, and that hope was connected to Joan. After Orleans, the French army continued to win. Town after town was retaken. The English forces were pushed back. At the Battle of Patay, the English suffered another major defeat. Their army collapsed quickly. Joan's next goal was clear. The Dauphin needed to be crowned king. The traditional place for this ceremony was Rheims Cathedral, but Rheims was deep in enemy territory. Many advisors thought it was too dangerous. Joan disagreed. She believed it was necessary. The army marched toward Rheims, and along the way, cities surrendered without much resistance. The momentum was on their side. In July 1429, the Dauphin was crowned as King Charles VII. Joan stood beside him during the ceremony. This was the moment she had been working toward. But her story did not end there. Even after the coronation, Joan wanted to continue fighting. She believed France was not fully free yet. However, the king and his advisors began to change their approach. They wanted peace and negotiations instead of constant battle. Joan pushed forward anyway. In one attack on Paris, she was injured again, this time in the leg. The attack failed, and this marked a turning point. Her influence began to fade. Months later in 1430, Joan was captured during a battle. She was taken by the Burgundians, who were allied with the English. Her situation quickly became dangerous. She was held in prison and later handed over to the English. They wanted her put on trial, not as a soldier, but as a heretic. The trial was long and intense. She was questioned for hours about her visions, her beliefs, and her actions. Despite her lack of formal education, she answered clearly and confidently. She did not break under pressure. But the outcome was already decided. She was found guilty. One of the main charges against her was wearing men's clothing, which was considered a serious offense at the time. Combined with her claims of divine guidance, this was used against her. On May 30th, 1431, Joan of Arc was executed. She was burned at the stake in the city of Rouen. She was only 19 years old. It seemed like her story had ended in defeat. But that was not the case. Her actions had already changed France. She had lifted the siege of Orleans. She had helped secure the coronation of the king. And most importantly, she had given the French people something they had lost: belief. After her death, the war continued, but over time, France regained control of its land. The English were eventually pushed out. Years later, a new trial was held to review her case. She was declared innocent. Her name was cleared. In 1920, she was officially recognized as a saint. Today, Joan of Arc is remembered as a symbol of courage and determination. She was not trained as a soldier. She had no power, no wealth, and no education. But she believed in her purpose and she acted on it. She changed the course of a war. She changed the future of a nation. And she proved that even someone from the humblest background can leave a mark on history that lasts forever.